this bill. Thank you for carrying it. I value the service of law enforcement here in the state. It takes me back to Parkland, the Parkland shooting, and I work very closely with the principals in my area. And one of the things that I've spoken with them about was the need for either enhanced SROs or additional SROs, and also, with the attrition and law enforcement officers that actually roll off and retire out, and then of course the shortages of officers in and around the state. I was just looking at Tuscaloosa yesterday, announcing that they're off doing $10,000, what is it called?
Sign-on bonus.
Signing bonuses and things of that nature. So they, and then of course, what we have going on in and around the city of Birmingham, down almost 300 officers. But I appreciate this bill. I appreciate the level everything that everybody has done on it. But I also wanted to rise, and I probably should have asked for a point of personal privilege, but we have so much going on today. But you and I just had a good conversation. Anytime we can lift our law enforcement up, and I pay close attention to current events and the things of the day, and just what we've seen in and around the state, and in particular, especially the city of Hoover. I think we should have taken a moment to commend this week the city of Hoover Police Department for what they did last week. A lot of folks can say they were just doing their job, but they went beyond the call of duty. I had been working on a bill just to drop, which that we would give some consideration to next year, an Ebony alert that I have. But even with that being the case, what they did and the level of attentiveness that they did, and we take those things for granted. Oftentimes what law enforcement goes through with, had this been during the regular course of the school year, some of those officers could have possibly been pulled out of the school to aid and assist in those efforts. I'm just using that area as an area of, to talk about that. But, I appreciate this bill. I appreciate everything that's gone into it, and I echo the sentiments of those that came before me. It's a much needed piece of legislation. I'm thankful that we were able to even get the piece out for the correctional officers earlier during the session. So I just wanted to just rise to simply say that some help is on the way. Additional help is on the way for the school system, but also, again, also just to mention about the city of Hoover as well, and what they did under the circumstances and the level of thoroughness and attentiveness that they put in play over the course of the past few weeks. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Question for the body now is passage of SB 4. Clerk will unlock the machine and members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the votes. 103 ayes, 0 nays. SB 4 has passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank the gentleman.
Yeah. Good job.
If you give me attention just for a couple of minutes. So the process of after the conference report, it's got to go through the Senate before we can see it and talk about it and have the body engage. So the Senate has just went back in. So it's going to be a little while. I don't know how long, but it will be maybe an hour anyway. So our hope was that we could time it a little bit better, but it is what it is, and it's worked out this way. I just want to let you know from the standpoint of what we're going to do right now. If you remember at the end of the session, we did this waiting on some bills to come down from the Senate. So the pro tem is going to call for a recess to the call of the chair. And we're going to let you go back to your office, make phone calls to your constituents and your family. And our hope is when we come back, we'll have it down. Well, when we come back, we will have it down here. And then we'll go through our process we've got to do, and then we'll take our vote. I just wanted to explain to you where we're at and what we're doing. And that way you'll understand the process of what we're going through. So with that being said, I recognize the pro tem for Mobile.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House stand in recess to the call of the chair.
All those in favor? Any opposed? We are in recess to the call of the chair.
agreed to in conference committee. The map is here. I have maps available. And at the conclusion of this discussion, we're all going to be very happy because you know what motion I get to make then. For that, Mr. Speaker, I move concurrence with the conference committee report.
You've heard the recommendation from the sponsor. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Tuscaloosa, Representative England.
Thank you for the recognition. You know, the map, as you see it here, is probably the first time that many people in this room have seen it. It is one of 3 maps that's gone through the entire process that has managed to avoid public scrutiny. And, you know, you're not in a very enviable position right now because we were handed the map and say, vote for it. And everybody else in the room was handed the map and said, don't vote for it. And I was on the conference committee. You will not see my name on that conference report for several reasons. I have a name for it. This one is, there's 2 I have for it. One I can't repeat on the floor, but I have another name for it. It is I was trying to keep it with all the people who may have had a part in this. Pringle, the Pringle, Livingston, Wall, Brown, Marshall. I heard Tommy Tuberville called a couple of people. So Tuberville plan, McCarthy plan. Am I leaving anybody out? Chip. So the thing is, it's the Republican plan, but it came from, it's not from us, right? It wasn't generated here. It wasn't a plan that we all had a part in. And literally, people still don't know what district they're allegedly going to be in when the congressional map is adopted. And that's a failure, it's a failure on all of us. It's a stain on all of us. But the worst part about it is, and I've said this before, this map captures it's like a checklist of non-compliance. It like goes through the Supreme Court order and it says, map close, a percentage is close to 39%. So we fail that. And then it has legislative findings attached to it that attempt to make the same losing argument about Mobile that the Supreme Court said no. So from the beginning of this week until now, it took all this time for it to dawn on me, and don't take this personal, this is all about process, but there was never any intent in this building to comply with that court order. Never. Also, there was never any intent in this building to comply with the Voting Rights Act. It was from the very beginning, from how we didn't get the chance to see the maps, from how the process worked, from how we weren't involved in picking the maps that were vetted, how we weren't involved in designing any of this. And it's amazing to me that the Black members of the legislature who were allegedly the aggrieved party weren't even involved in coming up with the remedial map to solve it. It's not about us. And honestly, it's not about most of the people in this room because this map was not drawn by most of y'all. It wasn't. It was drawn by a few people outside the building. And they were told, and you were handed this map and you said, vote for it. Because really, this is designed to protect a few people and to ultimately try to finish off the Voting Rights Act. So I told you this earlier, and I'm going to reiterate this point to you. You're unfortunately going to be memorialized in history. Now, there's several ways this could go. Adopting a completely non-compliant, unconstitutional, VRA violating map is a bold strategy. It is a bold strategy. And this could go several ways. y'all could take this up and district court does what it's clearly going to do because it's not comply with district court's order. And they say, we're going to draw you a map. You're going to say, we don't like that map. We're going to take it back to the Supreme Court. And you're going to hope that we're going to remind you guys that we're all supposed to be conservatives here. This is Alabama you're talking about now. Be careful. We're all supposed to be on the same team. And then maybe the refs will change the call. And the next thing you know, it becomes 39% creates opportunity. Because this wasn't about creating opportunity. This is more or less about creating a second majority minority district. And that's what they said. That's what they said. When we walk out of this door, we want you to go back to work. We're going to give you some time to do it, but please come back with something compliant. Please come back with something close. You know, this is not horseshoes or hand grenades or whatever. Come back with something close. And what do? Alabama does what Alabama does. And ultimately, what we're hoping for, I guess at some point, is federal court does what it always does to Alabama, forces us to do the right thing. Alabama courts always have to come in and save us from ourselves. But it's unfortunate, and this has been a long week for all of us. Racial conversations in Alabama always go really, really bad. We always end up on the front page of the newspaper because we just don't handle these things very well. But one thing that I always say about Alabama, it continues to be the place where the dead bury the living. We're haunted by a ghost of the past. And every time we get to a critical juncture where our better angels could lead us in a proper direction, we refuse and we say, we dare defend our rights. Well, like I said, bold strategy. The other part, though, which could happen, and this is one of those things where your name and all those other names are going to go up in lights, you could fail. District courts would say no, and the Supreme Court could say, we've already told you. And the map that none of us were involved in gets imposed upon us. And if that happens, we ultimately have all failed. Because now one person draws a map for an entire state of people. And your wager to either eliminate the Voting Rights Act or force us to use this illegal map for 2 more years fails and hands our responsibility away to a special master. And look, I don't know who's going to be happy with that one. That could be a complete mess. We could ultimately elect somebody we've never heard of before. And we had an opportunity to do it ourselves, and we failed. But you know what? Won't be the first time. I believe that we're going to be in federal court, having a federal court tell us what to do a lot over these next couple of years. They're going to fix our prison system because we refuse to do it. Anyway, the journey to finish off the Voting Rights Act through Alabama continues. Got Section 5 to the Shelby with the Shelby case. And if your wager is correct, the Pringle, Livingston, Wall, or Tuberville, Marshall, Chip, Republican plan will be the last straw that finally breaks the VRA's back. And again, I'm putting my money, my hopes in the federal court system, and hopefully they will save Alabama from themselves. Anyway, I don't need to go on. Somebody else could probably use this time better than I can. But I hate to say it, but I think we have failed our constituency and failed our constitutional duty to draw a map for them. And at the same time, defied a court order, defied federal law, and defied ourselves. Anyway, thank you for your time.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the lady from Jefferson, Representative Cavan.
I think Representative England said it best. I'm just standing here. Nothing in this chamber surprises me. But this week, I'm not surprised. At first, I thought I was literally in a twilight zone. And as I've said, I rise for the people not in this room. I'm not a voice for anyone in this room. Most of the time, not liked by many of you in this room, and I don't have a problem with that. I come for a constituency base that have chosen to send me here and that I share with on a regular basis. But I rise in this instance just to simply say to those that are listening that we still live in a democracy where our justice system still works, where the rule of law still works. As I said earlier, whether I agree with it or not at times, and there are times I don't. There are many decisions and verdicts that are rendered in this country I don't agree with. There are many rulings that are offered that I don't agree with. As I read and I peruse many of the decisions of the High Court, but I must live with them. But the ruling on June 8th that came back from the Supreme Court, we were sent here to do a task. And I don't take that task lightly, but I'm ashamed today. I'm ashamed of what we did here this week. I've received many of calls from across this country, even from some of my friends that are Republicans, that are amazed of the decisions that we have made in this chamber this week. And I know you all have connections to the Attorney General and all of those who are fighting. And I know there's a belief that this will go back to the High Court. But I believe that the court has, in even the other orders that have come down in other states, Louisiana, North Carolina, and other states over the course of the past few weeks, they have been deliberate in their debate and in those opinions. And they expect those legislatures to deliberate and to affect change with regards to those orders. I ultimately believe the two special masters that have been selected, and they've already been selected. They've already been picked. And they were already selected because the courts knew that you all thought that you were smarter than them, more brilliant, and would do just as you've done. And to dare to send back these maps or this map in a way that is clearly a defiance of the court order. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed at what we've done. I've heard several of you speak about past leadership, and no disrespect to you, Mr. Leader. But I know I've said in this chamber over the course of many years with some leaders who ruled with an iron fist, but I don't believe that I've said in this chamber with anyone that would have allowed these maps to leave out of here without two lines that would have clearly created a minority, two minority districts. I'm very disappointed in what we've done here today. I don't have to raise my voice in this moment. I've given you the math. 1 + 1 = 2, basic arithmetic. I've spoken about the Voting Rights Act. But as Representative England spoke, I thought about Bloody Sunday. I thought about all of those individuals who have been beaten. And when I crossed this bridge coming here this week, I looked out in the fields and I said to a representative that I was in the vehicle with, I thought about the cotton that used to be picked out of those fields and the hands that picked that cotton. But then I thought about a newer Alabama and the hopes and dreams of the slave. But then I get to this house and I look at you all and I saw those two maps up on the wall. And then I received, or not even received, I did get a text. But then I saw something that simply said a Black man was elected mayor in rural Alabama, but the white town leaders won't let him serve. And it reminded me of these maps because my colleagues in the Republican Party have said that they refuse to draw a line that they will allow, or a map that they will allow for districts that will be drawn in a way that they will allow someone, possibly an opportunity of color, to serve. I dropped my head in shame today. How long? I can't even say not long anymore. Because every time I think we are going forward, we take several steps backwards. Nothing surprises me in this house, but every now and then I'm disappointed in this house. But this week, I leave with utter devastation that we have convened for such a time as this. And we basically, as I said earlier, said to the Supreme Court, you're not the supreme law or the court of the land. We simply said that we are the supreme Republican Party in the House of Representatives. And how dare you tell us, what to do? How dare you tell us how to establish our voting lines? How dare you tell us who will lead us in this state? How dare you tell us who will lead us in rural Alabama? How dare you tell us when we live in a time just last week when our own senator did not understand the difference between a white nationalist being a racist versus a good old American. And we don't need more leadership or better leadership or different leadership in this country. Something is wrong in this chamber. I'm glad that I'm not a part of the groupings. I'm glad that I'm able and willing to stand alone. I'm okay with that in here. I'm really okay with it. I look forward to the decision of the court. I look forward to a better Alabama. I look forward to a better House of Representatives. Many of you have said to me, well, Wandalyn, you know, this is how it is. No, it's not how it is. This is how you choose it to be. This is how you choose it to be. And this week, we've chosen to outright, blatantly disobey the law and to further attempt to vote to bury the Voting Rights Act in this country. I pray that the court will reprise the Voting Rights Act once again as it attempted to do on June 8th. And I pray that the three-judge panel will kick out this and reject this map. And I pray blessings upon the two special masters who have been chosen to lead the charge to draw just and fair lines on behalf of the people of Alabama, because they deserve better, because we have failed, you all have failed them. Thank you.
Chair thanks the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Gentleman Yale,
Yes, sir.
a little earlier, I think I asked you a question about whether we were going to see a map that none of us knew. It appears I'm not going to try to recap all the names that Representative England brought forward, because that's more people than the committee had working on the map, or even knew about the map, or knew about us having another map. I've been concerned all along about how we conducted the process. And I know that you were saying that we had a low capacity to produce some things, but I think we owe more than that to the people we represent. We have now come down to the last day when we are now talking about a map, not the committee map, it's not the House map, it's not the people's map. It's a map of a few that has not been vetted really by anybody. I listened to the Senate and I heard the discussion up there. The map just hadn't been vetted. I mean, and that's quite unfortunate for us as a state, as a people, to have that kind of process go on, because then it lends itself to a lot of distrust, not just among us, but among the general state of Alabama community. And it lends itself to more divisive methods of getting things accomplished. It has already been ruled that we violated the Voting Rights Act. And there were just a few steps we had to take to remedy that. But we have spent a lot of time, at least, I honestly thought when we started coming down to meet about it and go through maps and listen to all the various people talk about them among ourselves as well as the general public, I really thought that we had a genuine interest in resolving this issue at this level. I really believe that. Now, some of my colleagues say, you were real naive. But I believe that. So I wanted to try to deal a little with what has happened here. First of all, I told you that I would come back and talk about communities of interest. And when I thought about that, I went back to my office and I started recapping the community of interest, especially as it relates to Mobile, Baldwin County. And I read in here, somebody wrote, well, actually somebody gave me a document, this document, that says that these are some things that's non-negotiable. And I guess they would be good if they were accurate, but they're not. First of all, let me just say that the definition that's used in this document for community of interest is even different from the state of Alabama's definition of communities of interest. Certainly different from the Supreme Court's definition of communities of interest. So what we've done is, rather than comply with the rules, we changed the rules. And I would think that if you can get away with that in the court, we're gonna have a different kind of justice system in the future. We actually, in what we have here, we define and characterize communities of interest as, among other things, the commonalities shared are economic interests, geographic features, transportation infrastructure, broadcast and print media, educational institution, and historical and cultural factors. But it was actually defined by the state and recognized the similarities of interest, including and not limited to ethnic, racial, economic, tribal, social, geographic, or historical identities. That's what the state of Alabama and the court defined it as. But that's not what this document defined it as. This document changed all of that. So I imagine if you can get them to change the law, you probably can comply with this. But I don't think you're gonna get them to change the law, not at this point. Not even with the cause you got. You're not gonna get them to change the law at this point. The other thing is we do have some commonalities with other parts of the state. Do we have some with Baldwin County? Yeah. One thing for sure, we both got water. But so does Pascagoula. And so does Pensacola. They all come to Mobile. And we go there. We can't play the lottery unless we go there. So we go there, but we don't have, that's not a community of interest, I guess. We've both got an interest in playing. All of us played the Powerball. And so I don't know how we are limited to just that. I worked with Baldwin County for 24 years, 18 at the county, 8 at the city, signed most of the documents of all our economic development projects, negotiated most of our economic development projects. And quite frankly, you know as well as I do, all of the incentives in those projects were funded by the city of Mobile and Mobile County and the Alabama Development Office. Those were the partners in economic development. The Chamber of Commerce, we pay them to be involved. So that's the concept that we've used for many, many years, still use in the Mobile area. So I don't want anyone to think that this document was saying that we were equal partners in contributing to economic development, because that's not the case. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about some of the things I see here, because it would use up all the time I got, and I don't have much left. So let me just say this. As well-intentioned as we might be, and many of us, I believe, are well-intentioned. I believe many of us are sincere about doing what we should do to represent all the people in the state of Alabama. But sometimes I think we suffer from the tragedy of a closed mind. A closed mind binds the wheel, chills faith, and destroys hope. It also promotes division, confusion, and a measure of selfishness that is not conducive to the word community or unity itself. And I think as we go forward with this and many other issues that we have to deal with, we ought at least, if not in our hearts, we ought at least try to comply with the law that we all swore to uphold. I knew, and you knew when I got here, that supermajority could outvote
Gentleman's
us.
time has expired. Chair recognizes the lady from Calhoun, Dr. Boyd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the recognition. Each time that I've come to the mic, I focused on two things: timeline and fairness. I've been up to the microphone at the public hearing, at committee meetings, and in the chamber. And you may look at me and say, what's so important about that? Why? Why? Because I serve on both committees, the Reapportionment Committee and State Government. What a charge. What a challenge. I'm looking at the map that was leveled, at the map that was debated before the House. Even all of the maps were very probably applicable. But this one had no consideration before the House and before people that we represent for fairness. It was substituted out, the first one, of the committee of what is called an opportunity map. I won't go on to explain what I know as opportunities from how I grew up, from how I had to struggle to get to this point. As we just think a little bit. I didn't mind this map going away because it was a terrible map. And it was no better than the maps that had been before us in the House. When this map was dismissed by the House instantly in the way that it was, why is it fit to be brought back again? Why is this map fit to even be our map? The answer is it is not fit to be our map, and it never has been our map or the people's map. This isn't supposed to be y'all, Southern. It's supposed to be all, and I'll repeat. This is not supposed to be y'all, as we say, but it is supposed to be ALL, all. This map is going to affect each and every Alabamian for generations to come. Name them, school boards, anything. This is serious, serious business. And it's going to have a massive impact on the communities of focus for the whole issue. The Black community, particularly those who live in the Black Belt. And it's supposed to be for the people. This is the people's house. I think as we enter out there, it appears on the door, vox populi. It's Latin for the voice of the people. Come on, think about it, the symbol that we see, the voice of the people. But the people were hardly involved and they weren't listened to. The federal courts have not even been listened to. we have misused their directive and their standards. For example, we have completely missed the mark on what an opportunity district is for Black people. And that standard for opportunity district has been misquoted time and time and time again. It is majority minority district or quite close to it. But people have been omitting the quite from the quite close to it. And the maps that we've seen aren't even close, much less quite close. All these criticisms apply to this map. And the reason I reject it is this is the people's house, the House of Representatives, and especially for future generations, those who will follow us. What kind of stand? What kind of courage? What are we going to leave behind, just like the man who built the bridge builder? And people ask him, why are you standing here at evening tide? You crossed that chasm vast and deep and wide, and you'll never come this way again. But that old gray man lifted up his head and he said, good friends, my fellow members of the House, in this path we've come today, there follow after us a youth whose feet must pass. He too must cross in the twilight dim. Good friends, fellow representatives, we are building today this bridge for those who will follow. May God bless us richly. Thank you so much for listening.
Chair, thanks, lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Hale, Representative Travis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the gentleman, yeah.
Yes, sir.
You know, as I come here today and be able to stand before this mic, 31 years ago, when the first map was drawn, there was a lady that spoke to me and she said, Curtis, do you think it's time for a Black to serve in the Alabama House of Representatives? She said, I think one day, but I'm just not sure right now. And I said to her, if not now, when? And time has come and the situations have evolved where this state has grown in populations, and now we are faced with the situation where, redistricting has to occur because of the census count. And when the June 8th and being here, I was so excited about how things would go and how we would get to here and get everything worked out together that I just looked at it with so much promise and excitement. And now I kind of got to wonder, I want to almost ask you, do you have another map that's going to occur before we get to this point? And as I thought about it and had read the court order and looked at it and everything, what popped into my mind was that old statement from that movie, Cool Hand Luke. It seems like we have a failure to communicate right here, right now. Because when we look at the standard here and what the court has required, the federal courts have said that we must provide 2 districts in which Black voters have an actionable opportunity to elect their candidate of choice. The three-judge panel was very clear. After examining the opinions and theories of all sides and all the studies that the court performed on Alabama, the three-judge federal panel said that the appropriate remedy is a map that includes 2 districts in which Black voters either compromise a voting age majority or something else close to it. And now we have a new map of Livingston 3. It's almost spin the wheel and see which one we land on and everything. So here we are right now. Who drew the map and who did the analysis? I know, as Representative England said, it's the unconstitutional Whale or Livingston map. I'm not going to put your name in it and everything because I think it's a merger surprise to you as everybody else. But who drew the map and who did the analysis on the map? Anybody? Do you know?
Yes, sir.
Well, I have an evaluation that was done by the Brenneman Center for Justice, and basically when it looked at the map, it says that in this new district, the performance, the only time that our people would have the opportunity to elect their candidate's choice be 1 out of 15 times. That's the deal, that's the number that we're looking at, and that's, so that's clearly not a majority-minority district. And, and when I questions and wanted to make sure, as engineers says, what is a majority-minority district? And what is the Gingrich case? Well, when majority-minority district is one which jurisdictions where the population is composed of less than 50% non-Hispanic white. So none of those are clearly not definitions. So again, I said, we got a failure to communicate because we are not communicating along the line what the Supreme Court has ruled. So we don't have an opportunity to provide for Black voters to elect their candidate of choice. We feel confident that the District 2, as represented in this, I guess it's Livingston 3 map, does not present an opportunity for Black voters to elect their candidate of choice. And in the language of the Supreme Court ruling, it was real certain about percentages and ability to vote for their candidates of choice, the ability to elect people who they feel for. And this is what we're dealing with, trying to get an understanding of the Supreme Court ruling and address it accordingly. They applied the Gingrich principles and basically said in the past one that we didn't meet the Gingrich principles. And, and clearly as I look at what's happening now, I cannot see how it's meeting any of the Gingrich principles. If we can not win, and as this goes through the map drawing, and this goes through the analysis, and when the 14 comes, it seems like we're getting back to the stage where so many decisions, like it was days of old in Alabama, was made by the federal court systems. As I was looking at this, Judge Frank Johnson Jr. came to mind. He dealt with a lot of things here in Alabama, our mental health system. Our issues with electing folks and the ability to serve, and the Montgomery Board, but so many issues that was dealt with by the federal courts to make us do right in Alabama, created opportunities for people. And we all say we are sisters and brothers in Christ together, which means we should be looking out and concerned and caring about each other together. But we don't see and feel like every voter should have the opportunities that we have. Now, I know, Chris, they talked about, they feel like this is an opportunity map, the opportunity for them to pick up another seat, but it ain't gonna work out that way. It's not gonna work out. It's just because everybody was going around saluting and high-fiving, think, the Section 2 was gonna be, we're gonna get rid of it and we're gonna do whatever we want to, and look what happened. And now, situations where we're just gonna do something and we're gonna come back and we're gonna get, we've been guided by some folks but it still ain't no workout. Because you know why? There's a God who believes in doing right. And because of that, you know, it's going to be real important that we, well, we're not fretting, but I know when the judges rule, the sad thing is I'm not going to be able to say to my children and grandchildren that I actually was part of that drawing the new district lines. Because the court's going to draw it. And we will be subject to whatever they draw. And that's what's so interesting. Well, we had a fair chance to sit down and say, hey, let's divide this cake up and let's do it right. And let them know that we can get it done. It didn't happen. We didn't get it done. And because of that, you know, we're going to have somebody that's going to say, but Curtis, y'all couldn't do it. Curtis, y'all couldn't make it happen. Curtis, y'all couldn't get it done. You know, as I spoke about Judge Frank Johnson Jr., he had always had a statement, I think it was similar to Abraham Lincoln, but he said, I do the very best I know how, the very best I can, and I mean to keep on doing so until the end. If the end brings me out right, what is said against me won't amount to anything. But if the end brings me out wrong, 10 angels swearing I was right will make no difference. I want to be part of the right. I want to be proud and say to the folks, we at the Alabama legislature can do the things to govern our state and make us proud. We can create opportunities for every person that stands here. But we failed to do it this time. Now, I know the game that was played, and what's so sad about it, in this whole body, we got to play games that at the end minute, we pop out a new plan. Let's not look at doing this forward. Let's not have the courts have to tell us, y'all gonna do it, and y'all gonna do it the right way. Because I can assure you, there is a God that looks high. That's a God who believes in doing right. And somehow, all things work together for the good. Thank you.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Representative Bracy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
Representative Pringle, how many of the impacted party is in favor of now what we're calling the unconstitutional Wall or Livingston map? How many Black people in the state of Alabama, or how many Black legislators that's been here all week and last week and through the hearings and everything, how many was involved in helping to create this map?
This is a map that was done by the conference committee. I couldn't answer the question. I don't know.
Okay. Is this map created for more opportunities? Because I'm just like everybody else, just starting to get the numbers where you have like 51% or so and like 39 to 40%. Is this the map created for more opportunities?
This is the map that came out of conference committee.
Is it created for more opportunities? I know even though it came out of the conference committee, we had some instructions on what we were supposed to do while we were here this week.
This map here has a second district of 39.93% and seventh district of 50.65%.
Okay. So who exactly is this map creating opportunities for? Is it creating opportunities for the possibility of 2 majority-minority districts in the state, or is it creating the opportunity for 7 majority white districts in the state?
I believe this map is an opportunity map and would comply with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act.
Opportunity for whom?
Minorities to elect a candidate of their choosing.
With 39%.
Believe if you add function on top of that, it could work, yes.
It could work.
It would work.
So you're telling me that you believe in this map?
I believe this map is more compact than any map that's been brought before the chamber. The districts are far more compact and contiguous.
Now you stood tall and fought hard on a map on Wednesday that had higher percentages in District 2 and District 7. And you felt like that map was the best that you could do, even though we looked earlier and said it's at least 12 other maps that was presented that's on the reapportionment website that tend to be more favorable than your map. But even this map is more unconstitutional than your map. So how do you feel about it, about this particular map? Because I know you stood tall Wednesday for the other map with less population.
You know how this process works. We do the very best we can in the bills we sponsor, but oftentimes we have to work with the other body, and the other body has as much say in what happens as we do. And the other body, this is the best map we can negotiate with the other body.
Okay. Was this map developed with state of Alabama resources, or did this map come from somewhere else? Where exactly did this particular map come from? Was it one that was submitted on the internet? Like, where did it come from?
This version of this map was done. It was done in the reapportionment office, yes.
Okay, so it was done through a reapportionment office, and it's been vetted.
It was done in the reapportionment office.
In the office. So this map has been vetted to make sure that it can stand the constitutionality that I guess you would have to defend.
It was just completed, so I'm not sure. I know it was done in the office.
Okay, so we've been here for a full week, and we've had public hearings. A lot of us had public hearings in our districts, town halls. We've had them, you've had a number of them. And yet, just recently, it's the first time anybody that's going to vote on something of this magnitude of importance will have an opportunity to even see that. Is this correct? Like, we're all just seeing this, right?
I've seen earlier, versions of this map. This map is very, very similar to the map the Senate debated and passed on Wednesday.
Okay.
I believe there were like 3 changes made to it, but basically it's the same map the Senate passed.
Okay. If you were me as a black member of the Alabama legislature, would you vote on this map as an opportunity map for you and your people that you're here to represent? Would you vote for it as if this is a fair representation of 27 to 28% of the state of Alabama's population? Would you feel comfortable going home voting yes on this if you were me?
I dare not speak for anybody but myself, but I will tell you, this is the map that I'm going to vote yes on.
Okay. And I understand that you are, but I guess I'm asking if you were in my shoes. Do you really feel that this map creates an equal opportunity or a true? It's like you were told to create an additional opportunity district, but you even lessen the opportunities in another district. And I guess I just don't quite get that. I don't quite understand that. You got all the marbles and you want even more marbles. And it's like throughout history, it's as if the courts is always the only way that we as black people can get gains in the state of Alabama. It's like we just are not tasked to just do right by us and do the right thing and just look at us as equal citizens here in this state. It's like we always have to have somebody from the outside step in to say, I am a man. I am a 100%. You know, you have to treat them fair. You have to allow them to use the restrooms and drink from the water fountains. And they shouldn't have to continue to go around the back. They should have an opportunity to have a seat at the table. But for some reason, that's not important in this body. It's always as if somebody else have to try to make us do what's right. It's simple math. Simple math. It's a simple percentage. The simple percentage comes up to 2 or almost 2. But we continue to just do things just totally different than what's expected. Do you feel that, and I'll just speak about portions of Mobile that I'm close to. Do you think that Africatown, Pritchard, Tomaville, Down the Bay, Maysville are communities of interest with Foley, Daphne, Fairhope, Orange Beach, Bay Minette? Do you think that? Or do you think that those will be more communities of interest with cities within the Black Belt? I mean, you live there, so you know about the poverty in these communities. You know about the racial makeup in these communities. You know about the economic development in these communities, the poverty line. You know about all the issues that these communities face. But yet, we want to say that these communities are communities of interest, and we all know that they're not. We're not talking about the entire city of Mobile or Mobile County. We're talking about a portion that's attached to the bottom of this map. It's attached right here. This is the part. The northern part of Mobile County is exactly what we're talking about, which is attached to another area outside of Congressional District 1. Even we can look at the community colleges. Coastal Alabama Community College. Every area of Congressional District 1, but Bishop State is Mobile's community college. It's clearly identified that we are not, and some things we do have in common. But when it comes down to who we are, where we migrated
And
from.
the gentleman's time has expired.
Thank you.
Question for the body now is concurrence on SB 5. Clerk will unlock the machine and the members will vote. Clerk will lock the machine. Record the vote. 75 ayes, 28 nays, 0 abstentions. SB 5 has passed.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait a minute. Chair would like to recognize the lady from Mobile, Representative Drummond, for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have a time-sensitive resolution mourning the death, both Representative Clark and I mourning the death of Larry Kidd, who is a dear friend who passed away this week and will be funeralized on tomorrow.
Okay, you heard the lady's resolution. Clerk, see the resolution.
Larry Kidd.
Resolution from Representative Drummond mourning the death and celebrating the life of Reverend Larry Jerome Kidd.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Resolution is passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Betty.
Thank the lady. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle.
Mr. Speaker, I move the House stand in adjournment. Sign it out. Oh. Man, they keep cutting me off.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Lee, Chairman Lovern.
Mr. Speaker, I have a report.
House of Representatives, your Standing Committee on Rules begs leave to report that it has carefully examined the Journal of the House for the 5th legislative day and finds the same to be correct. Signed, Representative Joe Lovern, Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I move that the reading of the journal at length for the 5th legislative day be dispensed with.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It is dispensed with.
Yeah. That is ready to go home.
Chair recognizes the gentleman from Mobile, Pro Tem Pringle.
Ladies and gentlemen, I move the House stand in adjournment sine die.
All those in favor say aye. We are adjourned. Sine die.